Marcus's tattooed fist clenched so hard his knuckles turned white. The waitress had just ripped the menu from his mother's trembling hands, her voice dripping with contempt as Eleanor's confused eyes filled with tears. At 6'5" and 250, Marcus could snap this woman in half. His Hell's Angels instincts screamed at him to make her regret every cruel word. But then Katie's hand rose, and for one terrible second, it looked like she was going to strike his 78-year-old mother. The entire diner held its breath. Marcus rose from his seat like a storm gathering force, and the fear in Katie's eyes told him she finally understood what she'd unleashed. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and comment below with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now, let's see what happens next. Marcus Sullivan had learned to control his anger. 20 years of meditation, therapy, and his mother's patient love had transformed him from the rage-filled biker who'd terrorized Portland's streets into someone who could walk into a church without people crossing themselves. But watching Katie Ross treat Eleanor like garbage was testing every ounce of that hard-won control. "I don't understand," Eleanor whispered, her voice breaking. "Why is she upset with me?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "She's not upset with you, Mom. She's just having a bad day." "But I didn't do anything wrong, did I?" Eleanor's blue eyes searched his face with the desperate confusion he'd seen 100 times since the Alzheimer's diagnosis. "I'm trying so hard to remember what I want to order." "You didn't do anything wrong." Marcus placed his hand over hers. "Not a single thing." Katie returned to their table, her order pad clutched like a weapon. The dark circles under her eyes couldn't hide the contempt burning in them. She'd been serving them for 8 months, and her hostility had grown with each visit, though Marcus couldn't understand why. "Are you ready yet?" Katie's tone could have stripped paint. "Or do we need another 20 minutes of confusion?" Eleanor flinched. Marcus felt his pulse spike. "We'll have the usual," he said, keeping his voice level. "Mom likes the blueberry pancakes with—" "I know what she orders," Katie interrupted. "She orders the same thing every single Sunday, then acts like she's never been here before. It's pathetic." The word hung in the air like poison. Marcus felt something shift inside him. The old darkness stirred, the part of him that used to solve problems with his fists. He'd buried that man deep, but he could feel him clawing his way back to the surface. "Watch your mouth," he said quietly. Too quietly. Katie's eyes flashed. "Or what? You'll threaten me?" Typical biker trash, using intimidation to— "I'd like tea, please," Eleanor interjected, her voice small and uncertain. "If that's not too much trouble. I'm sorry if I'm being difficult." "You're not being difficult, Mom." Marcus never took his eyes off Katie. "She's the one with the problem." "I don't have a problem," Katie shot back. "I have customers who take up space for hours, order the cheapest thing on the menu, and make everyone's life harder with their—" "Finish that sentence." Marcus stood up slowly, his full height unfolding like a threat. "Go ahead and finish it." Katie stepped back, but her chin lifted defiantly. "With their constant neediness. There, I said it. Some people can't handle their own lives, so they make it everyone else's responsibility." Eleanor's hand shook as she reached for her water glass. She knocked it over instead, and water spread across the table in a widening pool. Her face crumpled. "Oh no, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to—" Eleanor's voice cracked. "I'm making such a mess. I'm so sorry." "It's okay, Mom." Marcus grabbed napkins, dabbing at the spill. "It's just water." Katie didn't move to help. She stood there, watching Eleanor's distress with something that looked almost like satisfaction. That's when Marcus saw it. The raised hand. Katie's fingers curled, her arm tensing, and for one heartbreaking second, it looked exactly like she was about to strike his mother. The diner exploded into motion as Marcus surged forward, his chair clattering backward. His hand shot out and caught Katie's wrist in midair, his grip iron but controlled. He towered over her, every muscle in his body coiled tight. "Don't." The word came out like gravel. "Don't you dare." Katie's eyes went wide with fear. Real, genuine terror. The order pad fell from her other hand, hitting the floor with a slap that echoed in the sudden silence. Every conversation in the diner had stopped. Forks hung suspended halfway to mouths. The sizzle from the kitchen seemed muted, like someone had turned down the volume on the entire world. "Marcus, please." Eleanor's voice cut through the tension. "Please, son. You're scaring me." Those words hit him like cold water. Marcus released Katie's wrist and stepped back, his breathing hard. He could feel everyone staring at him. The tattooed ex-hellsangel who just grabbed a young waitress. Never mind that she'd been about to hit an elderly woman. Never mind the cruelty in her words. All they saw was the scary biker and the frightened girl. The story of his life. Katie rubbed her wrist, her face pale, but her eyes still defiant. "You just assaulted me," she said, her voice shaking. "Everyone saw it." "I stopped you from hitting my mother," Marcus corrected, forcing calm into his voice. "Everyone saw that, too." "I wasn't going to hit her. I was just—" Katie stopped, seeming to realize she had no good explanation for the gesture. "You were just what?" Marcus demanded. "Gesturing aggressively at a confused 78-year-old woman? That's your defense?" "Marcus, please," Eleanor said again, her voice trembling. "Let's just go. I'm not hungry anymore." Marcus looked at his mother. Really looked at her. Eleanor's hands were clasped tightly in her lap, her shoulders hunched as if trying to make herself smaller. Her eyes darted between him and Katie, full of confusion and fear. This was supposed to be their peaceful Sunday morning tradition, and he'd turned it into a scene. "Yeah," he said finally. "Let's go, Mom." He helped Eleanor out of the booth, his movements gentle despite the adrenaline still coursing through him. As he guided her toward the door, he heard Katie's voice behind them. "Don't come back," she called out. "We don't serve people like you here." Marcus stopped, turned, looked at her across the diner. "People like us?" he asked quietly. "You mean a son taking care of his sick mother?" "Yeah, I can see how that would bother someone like you." Katie's face flushed red. "Someone like me? You don't know anything about me." "I know enough." Marcus paused at the door. "I know you're angry at the world and taking it out on people who don't deserve it. I know that pain in your eyes, because I used to see it in my own mirror every morning." Something flickered across Katie's face. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. "I also know," Marcus continued, his voice softer now, "that hurt people hurt people. So whatever's eating you up inside, I hope you find a way to heal before it destroys you." He walked out before she could respond, his hand steady on Eleanor's elbow as they navigated the parking lot. The morning sun felt too bright, too cheerful for the storm of emotions churning inside him. Eleanor moved slowly beside him, her steps uncertain on the asphalt. "I made you angry," Eleanor said suddenly. "I'm sorry, Marcus. I try so hard to remember things, but they just slip away." Marcus stopped walking. His throat tightened painfully. "Mom, look at me." He waited until Eleanor's confused gaze met his. "You didn't make me angry. Not even a little bit. That waitress was cruel to you, and I couldn't stand by and watch it." "She was just doing her job." Eleanor's voice carried that heartbreaking reasonableness she sometimes had, like she was making excuses for the world's cruelty. "I'm sure I was being difficult." You weren't being difficult. You were being yourself, and that's never wrong. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. I don't know who myself is anymore, sweetheart. Sometimes I wake up and I don't even know what year it is. I see your father in the kitchen making coffee, and then I remember he's been gone for 12 years. Marcus pulled her into a gentle hug, feeling how small she'd become. Eleanor had always been strong, formidable even, the woman who'd raised him alone after his father died, who'd never backed down from his teenage rebellion, who'd visited him in jail and never once said, I told you so. Now she barely came up to his chest, fragile as bird bones. I know, Mom, he murmured into her silver hair. I know it's hard. They stood there in the parking lot, Marcus holding his mother while she cried softly against his chest. Cars pulled in and out around them, people living their normal Sunday morning lives, oblivious to the small tragedy playing out beside the dumpsters. Finally, Eleanor pulled back, wiping her eyes. I'm being silly, she said, trying to smile. Let's go home. I'll make us breakfast. Marcus's heart clenched. Mom, you can't use the stove anymore, remember? We talked about this. Confusion clouded Eleanor's face. Why can't I use the stove? I've been cooking for 50 years. Because last month you left it on and nearly burned the house down. He kept his voice gentle, even though repeating this conversation for the 100th time felt like swallowing glass. We got you that nice microwave instead. I don't remember that. Eleanor's voice rose with frustration. I don't remember any of that. Why don't I remember? It's okay. Let's just get you home. Marcus guided her toward his pickup truck, the one modification he'd made from his biker days, adding a step to make it easier for Eleanor to climb in. As he helped her into the passenger seat and secured her seatbelt, Eleanor suddenly grabbed his hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Marcus, she said, and her voice was different, clear, focused. My beautiful boy. Marcus froze. These moments of clarity were rare and getting rarer. He savored each one like a drowning man gasping for air. I'm here, Mom. I know what's happening to me, Eleanor continued, her blue eyes locked on his with heartbreaking lucidity. I know I'm forgetting things, forgetting you sometimes. But I need you to know something. What, Mom? Your father would be so proud of the man you've become. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice remained steady. You were so angry when he died, so lost. But look at you now, taking care of your old mother, being patient when I can't remember your name, showing up every single day, even when it's hard. Marcus's vision blurred. It's not hard, Mom. You're my mother. It is hard, Eleanor insisted. Don't lie to spare my feelings. I know how hard this is. But you do it anyway, with such love, such gentleness. She touched his face with her weathered hand. That waitress in there, she reminded me of you. What? Marcus couldn't hide his shock. Mom, that woman was cruel to you. She was angry, Eleanor corrected. Angry and hurting, just like you were all those years ago. I saw it in her eyes, the same pain you carried for so long. That doesn't excuse what she did. No, Eleanor agreed. But maybe she needs what you needed. Someone who doesn't give up on her. Someone who sees past the anger to the hurt underneath. Marcus wanted to argue, to tell his mother that Katie Ross didn't deserve compassion after the way she'd treated Eleanor. But he couldn't, because he knew his mother was right. He'd been exactly like Katie once, lashing out at everyone, pushing away anyone who tried to help, convinced the world was against him. If his mother had given up on him back then, who knows where he'd be? Probably dead or in prison. "I'll think about it," he said finally. Eleanor smiled, that radiant smile that had survived despite everything the disease had taken from her. "That's my boy." Then, like a light switch flipping, the clarity faded from her eyes. She looked around the truck's interior with confusion. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Did we already eat breakfast?" Marcus swallowed the lump in his throat. "We're going home, Mom. We'll have breakfast there." "Oh, good. I'm starving." Eleanor settled back in her seat, humming softly to herself. Marcus stood outside the truck for a moment, one hand on the doorframe, trying to compose himself. The morning had gone from peaceful to catastrophic in the span of minutes, and he felt emotionally wrung out. But more than that, he felt confused. His mother's words kept echoing in his head. "That waitress reminded me of you." Could it be true? Was Katie Ross just another broken person lashing out at the world, the way he'd been 20 years ago? Marcus looked back at the diner. Through the window, he could see Katie moving between tables, her shoulders tense, her movements sharp and angry. Even from here, he could read the misery in her body language. His phone buzzed. A text from his sponsor, Derek. "How's Sunday breakfast?" Marcus typed back. "Complicated. Call you later." He climbed into the truck and started the engine. But before pulling out, he took one more look at the diner. Katie stood at the window, staring out at nothing. For just a second, her mask of anger slipped, and Marcus saw something else underneath, something raw and wounded. His mother's voice came from beside him, singing softly. "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me." Marcus put the truck in gear and drove home, but he couldn't shake the image of Katie's face from his mind, or his mother's words about seeing past the anger to the hurt underneath. The drive took 15 minutes, but it felt longer. Eleanor sang the entire way, cycling through the same verse of the hymn over and over, sometimes forgetting the words halfway through and starting again. Marcus had learned not to correct her, to let her find comfort in whatever fragments of memory remained. When they pulled into the driveway of the small ranch house Eleanor had lived in for 40 years, she looked at it with wonder. "What a lovely house," she said. "Is this where we're visiting?" "This is your house, Mom. You've lived here since 1984. Eleanor's face scrunched up, trying to process this information. "I have? I don't remember moving here." "That's okay." Marcus helped her out of the truck. "Let's get you inside." The house smelled like lavender and old books, familiar scents that usually calmed Marcus, but today everything felt off balance. He settled Eleanor in her favorite armchair and turned on the television to one of those old movie channels she liked, even though she rarely followed the plots anymore. "I'll make us some breakfast," he said. "Oh, don't go to any trouble for me, dear." Eleanor patted his hand absently, her attention already captured by the black and white film flickering across the screen. In the kitchen, Marcus scrambled eggs and made toast, his movements automatic. His mind kept drifting back to the diner, to the confrontation, to the look in Katie's eyes when he'd grabbed her wrist. He'd seen fear there, yes, but something else too. Something that made his mother's words ring true. His phone rang. Derek. "Hey, man," Marcus answered, cradling the phone against his shoulder while he plated the eggs. "You sounded stressed in that text. What happened?" Marcus explained the situation at the diner, from Katie's cruelty to his own near-violent response, to his mother's unexpected wisdom in the parking lot. Derek listened without interrupting, a skill he'd perfected in his 20 years of sobriety sponsorship. "So what are you going to do?" Derek asked when Marcus finished. "I don't know. Part of me wants to file a complaint with the diner manager, get her fired. And the other part? Marcus sighed. The other part keeps hearing my mom say that Katie reminded her of me. And I keep thinking about how many people wanted to give up on me when I was at my worst. But your mother never did. No, she never did. Marcus looked through the doorway at Eleanor, who was humming along to the movie, completely content in this moment. Even when I was at my absolute worst, stealing, fighting, living that biker life, she kept showing up, kept loving me, kept believing I could be better. Sounds like you already know what you need to do. I don't even know where to start, Derek. That woman hates me, hates my mother. She doesn't hate your mother, Derek said quietly. She hates something. Maybe herself, maybe her life, maybe her past. But it's not about you or Eleanor. Marcus carried the plates to the living room and set one on the TV tray beside his mother's chair. Eleanor looked at it with delight. Oh, how wonderful! Breakfast! Did I make this? I made it for you, Mom. You're such a good boy. Eleanor picked up her fork with trembling hands. Your father and I are very proud of you. Marcus felt the familiar ache in his chest, but smiled anyway. Thanks, Mom. After he hung up with Derek, Marcus sat in the chair across from his mother, eating his eggs without tasting them. The black and white movie played on, some Cary Grant film Eleanor had probably seen 100 times. His phone buzzed again, this time a text from his sister Jennifer in Seattle. How's Mom today? Marcus hesitated, then typed, Same. Good moments and hard ones. We had an incident at the diner. 3 dots appeared, then, what kind of incident? He gave her the brief version, leaving out his own near-violent reaction. Jennifer's response came quickly. File a complaint. That's elder abuse. Marcus stared at the text. Technically, she was right. What Katie had done could qualify as elder abuse, but something in him resisted the idea of getting her in trouble, and he wasn't sure why. Maybe it was his mother's words. Maybe it was something else. He texted back, I'll handle it. Jennifer, don't go all hell's angel on her, Marcus. You've worked too hard to throw it away. He smiled despite himself. I'm not going to hurt her, but I am going to talk to her. The rest of Sunday passed in the familiar rhythm of Eleanor's care. Lunch, medication, a walk around the block that took 20 minutes because Eleanor stopped to examine every flower, every bird, like she was seeing them for the first time. In a way, she was. That evening, after he'd settled Eleanor in bed and listened to her ask who he was 3 times before finally accepting his answer, Marcus sat at her old writing desk. It was a beautiful antique mahogany piece that Eleanor had bought at an estate sale decades ago. She'd kept all her important papers in it, organized in folders that Marcus now maintained for her. He was looking for Eleanor's will, wanting to make sure everything was current, when he found a letter tucked into an old photo album. The envelope was addressed to Eleanor, but it had never been opened. The return address simply said, R. Miller. Marcus's heart skipped. Miller was Katie's last name. He'd seen it on her name tag. With careful fingers, he opened the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. The handwriting was shaky, the words sometimes trailing off or scratching through corrections. Dear Eleanor, it began. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Marcus's hands started to shake as he read on. The letter was from Rachel Miller, Katie's mother. It was a deathbed confession, an apology, an explanation for years of bitterness that had poisoned everything she touched. Rachel wrote about working for the Sullivan family, about Eleanor's kindness that she'd mistaken for pity. She wrote about pushing away Katie's father, a good man who'd wanted to be involved but was rejected by Rachel's toxic pride. She wrote about stealing from Eleanor and the shame that consumed her afterward, But most devastating, she wrote about poisoning her own daughter with lies. "I told Katie you looked down on us," Rachel confessed in cramped handwriting. "I told her rich people like you were the enemy, that your kindness was just another way to feel superior. I taught my daughter to hate you before she ever met you, and I can never take that back." The letter went on, becoming more difficult to read as Rachel's strength apparently waned. "Katie grew up bitter because I was bitter, angry because I was angry. I gave her nothing but resentment and rage, and now I'm dying knowing that's my legacy to her. I'm so sorry, Eleanor. For everything. For the theft, for the lies, for turning my beautiful daughter into a version of my worst self." The letter ended with a plea. "If you ever meet Katie, please don't judge her too harshly. She's only living out the poison I put in her heart. Maybe you can show her what I never could, that kindness doesn't always have strings attached." Marcus read the letter 3 times, each reading bringing new understanding. Katie's hostility wasn't random. It was learned behavior, passed down from a mother who'd been drowning in her own pain. He thought about Eleanor, sleeping peacefully in the next room, a woman who'd extended kindness to Rachel Miller, only to have it thrown back in her face. A woman who'd created a college fund for little Katie, only to have Rachel disappear with the child before it could be used. And he thought about Katie Ross, a young woman who'd been raised on lies and bitterness, who had no idea her entire worldview was built on her mother's twisted perceptions. The revelation settled over him like a weight. This changed everything. Marcus carefully folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. He sat there in the dim light of the desk lamp, listening to his mother's soft snoring from the bedroom, and felt the path forward crystallize in his mind. He couldn't fix Rachel Miller's mistakes. She was dead and gone, her damage done. But Katie was still alive, still young enough to change, still capable of healing if someone gave her the chance, the way his mother had given him a chance. Marcus pulled out his phone and sent a text to Derek. "I found something. I need to tell you about it. Can we meet tomorrow?" Derek's response was immediate. "My office, 9 a.m. You okay?" Marcus looked at the envelope, thinking about the twisted chain of pain that connected his mother to Rachel, to Katie. "Not yet," he typed back. "But I'm working on it." Derek's office smelled like coffee and old books, a combination Marcus had come to associate with clarity. He sat in the worn leather chair across from his sponsor's desk, the letter from Rachel Miller heavy in his jacket pocket. "You look like you didn't sleep," Derek observed, pouring 2 cups of coffee. "I didn't." Marcus accepted the cup. "I kept thinking about this letter, about Katie, about what my mom said." "Let me see it." Marcus handed over the envelope. Derek read in silence, his expression growing more troubled with each paragraph. When he finished, he set the letter down and leaned back in his chair. "This is heavy, Marcus. Really heavy." "I know." "What are you planning to do with it?" Marcus ran his hand over his face. "I need to talk to Katie. Show her this. She deserves to know the truth about her mother." Derek's eyebrows rose. "You think she's going to believe you? The man she thinks assaulted her yesterday?" "Probably not." Marcus stared into his coffee. "But I have to try. My mom saw something in Katie, Derek. Something worth saving." "Your mom sees good in everyone. It's her superpower." "Exactly. And she was right about me when everyone else gave up." Marcus met Derek's eyes. "What if Katie's the same? What if all that anger is just covering up pain?" Derek sighed. "You know I support you, man. But this could go sideways fast. She could file charges from yesterday. She could tell you to go to hell. She could... I know the risks. Do you? Derek leaned forward. Because I remember when you first got sober. Remember how you reacted when people tried to help? You threw a chair through my window. Marcus winced at the memory. I replaced that window. After 3 months of me not giving up on you? Derek's voice softened. I'm not saying don't do this. I'm saying be prepared for her to throw chairs. Metaphorically speaking. Or literally. Or literally. Derek smiled slightly. So what's your plan? I'm going to the diner. During her shift. I'm going to try to talk to her. And if she refuses? Marcus pulled the letter from his pocket and stared at Rachel's shaky handwriting. Then I keep trying. That's what Mom would do. The diner's lunch rush was winding down when Marcus walked through the door. Several customers glanced up, recognition flickering across their faces. A few whispered to each other, probably about yesterday's scene. Marcus ignored them and headed straight for the counter. Katie was refilling salt shakers, her movements sharp and aggressive. She looked up, saw him, and her face went rigid. Get out, she said flatly. I need to talk to you. I said get out. I'll call the cops. Call them. Marcus pulled out his phone and set it on the counter. I'll wait, but I'm not leaving until you hear what I have to say. Katie's hand trembled as she set down the salt shaker. You have some nerve coming back here after yesterday. You're right, I do. Marcus kept his voice low, aware of the other customers watching. But this isn't about yesterday. This is about your mother. Something flickered in Katie's eyes. What about my mother? Rachel Miller. She worked for my family 28 years ago. Katie's face went pale. How do you know her name? Because she left something for my mother before she died. Something you need to see. I don't need to see anything from you. But Katie's voice had lost its sharp edge. She sounded uncertain now, almost frightened. Marcus pulled the envelope from his pocket and placed it on the counter between them. This is a letter your mother wrote to mine. Read it. Katie stared at the envelope like it might bite her. Why would my mother write to your mother? Because she owed her an apology. Because she needed to tell the truth before she died. The truth about what? Katie's voice rose. About how your rich family treated her like garbage? About how they looked down on her? Is that what she told you? Yes. Katie's hands balled into fists. She told me everything. How they made her feel worthless. How they... She lied to you, Katie. The words hung in the air like a slap. Katie's face flushed red. You don't know what you're talking about. Read the letter. No. Katie, please. I said no! She grabbed the envelope and threw it back at him. It hit his chest and fell to the floor. Get out of my diner before I call the police. Marcus bent down and picked up the letter. When he straightened, he saw tears in Katie's eyes, quickly blinked away. I'm not your enemy, he said quietly. Neither was my mother. But you won't know that until you read what Rachel wrote. My mother's name is Mom, not Rachel. And she didn't lie to me. Then prove it. Read the letter and prove me wrong. Katie's jaw clenched. For a long moment, they stared at each other across the counter. Finally, she snatched the envelope from his hand. Fine. I'll read your stupid letter. Then you leave and never come back. Deal. Katie ripped open the envelope and pulled out the pages. Marcus watched her eyes scan the first few lines. Her expression shifted from anger to confusion to something harder to define. This is fake, she said, but her voice wavered. It's not. My father didn't want anything to do with us. She told you what she needed you to believe so you wouldn't blame her for pushing him away. Katie's hands started shaking. She read further, her breathing becoming shallow and quick. When she reached the part about the college fund, she made a small, wounded sound. "No," she whispered. "No, this can't be right." "I'm sorry, Katie." She looked up at him, her eyes swimming with tears. "You're lying. This whole thing is fake. You made this up to what? Make you feel bad? Get revenge?" Marcus shook his head. "I'm showing you this because my mother asked me to see past your anger to the hurt underneath. And because you deserve to know the truth." Katie's face crumpled. She turned away, one hand pressed to her mouth, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The other customers had gone quiet, watching the drama unfold. Marcus stood there, feeling helpless. He wanted to comfort her, but knew his presence would only make things worse. "Katie?" An older waitress approached, concern on her face. "Honey, are you okay?" "I'm fine, Linda." Katie's voice was muffled. "Just give me a minute." Linda shot Marcus a disapproving look. "Maybe you should go, sir." "Yeah." Marcus pulled a business card from his wallet and set it on the counter. "Katie, when you're ready to talk, call me. I'll answer any questions you have." He walked out before she could respond, feeling the weight of a dozen judging stares on his back. The card sat on the counter for 2 hours before Katie touched it. She'd locked herself in the employee bathroom after Marcus left, crying until she had no tears left. Now her shift was over, and she was sitting in her car in the parking lot, rereading Rachel's letter for the 5th time. Each reading made it worse. Each paragraph stripped away another piece of the foundation Katie's life was built on. Her mother had lied. About everything. Katie pulled out her phone and stared at Marcus's card. The number seemed to mock her. Did she really want to know more? Did she want to hear how wrong she'd been, how much damage she'd done, based on her mother's twisted version of reality? Her thumb hovered over the dial button. A knock on her window made her jump. She looked up to see Linda standing there, concern etched on her weathered face. Katie rolled down the window. "I'm fine, Linda." "No, you're not. And I'm not letting you drive home like this." Linda opened the door. "Come on, we're going to get coffee, and you're going to tell me what's going on." 20 minutes later, they sat in a corner booth at a competing diner across town. Linda had ordered them both coffee and pie, even though Katie insisted she wasn't hungry. "Now talk," Linda said, her voice gentle but firm. Katie told her everything. About her mother's stories of the Sullivan family, about the confrontation with Eleanor and Marcus, about the letter that turned her entire world upside down. Linda listened without interrupting, her expression growing more troubled as Katie spoke. "Your mother worked for the Sullivans?" Linda asked when Katie finished. "Apparently. She never told me that part. Just said she'd worked for a rich family who treated her terribly." Linda was quiet for a moment, stirring her coffee. "Katie, I knew your mother." Katie's head snapped up. "What?" "Not well, but I knew her. We were in the same book club for about 6 months, maybe 10 years ago." Linda's expression was sad. "She was very bitter, honey. Very angry at the world." "She had reasons to be angry." "Did she?" Linda met Katie's eye. "Because from what I remember, she spent most of those book club meetings complaining about people who'd tried to help her. Her ex-boyfriend who wanted to pay child support. A former employer who'd offered to write her a reference. A church that tried to help with bills." Katie felt something crack inside her chest. She never mentioned any of that. She probably didn't see it as help. Some people are so deep in their own pain that kindness feels like an attack. Linda reached across the table and covered Katie's hand with her own. Your mother loved you, Katie. But she was drowning, and sometimes drowning people pull down everyone around them. Katie's vision blurred with tears. I've been horrible to that old woman, to Eleanor. All because Mom told me people like her were the enemy. Then make it right. How? How do I make up for that? Linda squeezed her hand. You start by calling that number on the card in your pocket. You talk to Marcus Sullivan. You hear the whole truth, no matter how much it hurts, and then you decide who you want to be from here on out. Katie drove home in a daze, Linda's words echoing in her head. Her apartment was small and dark, filled with her mother's old furniture and photographs. She'd kept everything exactly as Rachel left it, like a shrine to a woman who, maybe, didn't deserve one. She looked at a photo on the wall, her mother, in her late 20s, holding a baby Katie, unsmiling even then. Katie had always thought her mother looked strong in that picture, defiant. Now she just looked angry. How many lies had Rachel told her? How many times had Katie pushed people away because her mother taught her that everyone had ulterior motives? Her phone buzzed. A text from the diner manager. Katie, we need to talk about what happened today. Come in early tomorrow. Katie's stomach dropped. She was probably getting fired. After yesterday's scene and today's breakdown, who could blame them? She stared at Marcus's business card, worn now from being folded and unfolded so many times. The smart thing would be to ignore it, to move on and pretend none of this happened. But Linda was right. She needed to know the truth. All of it. Katie took a deep breath and dialed the number. Marcus answered on the second ring. Hello? It's Katie Ross? Her voice came out shakier than she intended. From the diner? I know who you are. His voice was calm, patient. Are you okay? The simple question broke something in her. No, she admitted. I'm not okay. Nothing is okay. I need to know what really happened between my mother and your family. I need to know everything. Okay. When do you want to meet? Tomorrow, after my shift? That works. There's someone I'd like you to meet. Katie's stomach clenched. Who? My mother, Eleanor. No. Panic flooded through her. No, I can't face her. Not after what I did. Katie, she won't remember what you did. She probably won't remember meeting you at all. Marcus's voice was gentle. But she remembers the important things. She remembers how to forgive, how to see the best in people. I was awful to her. I know, and you'll have to live with that. But you also have a chance to make it right, if you want it. Katie closed her eyes, thinking about Rachel's letter, about all the opportunities for healing her mother had pushed away. Did she want to make the same mistakes? Okay, she whispered. I'll meet her. But Marcus, what if she hates me? She won't. That's not who she is. He paused. Meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow at 6. We'll talk first before you see her. I'll answer any questions you have. After they hung up, Katie sat in her dark apartment, surrounded by her mother's legacy of bitterness and anger. She thought about the college fund Rachel had never told her about, the father who'd wanted to be involved, the kindness that had been reframed as condescension. How different would her life have been if Rachel had told the truth, if she'd accepted help instead of rejecting it, if she'd taught Katie to see good in people instead of assuming the worst. Katie pulled out a notebook and began writing, not to Rachel, her mother was dead and gone, but to herself, to the person she'd been and the person she might become. Dear Katie, she wrote, today you learned that everything you believed was a lie. Today you learned that your anger, your bitterness, your hatred, none of it was really yours. It was inherited, passed down like a disease. But it doesn't have to define you. You can choose something different. You can choose to heal. The words flowed faster, years of pain and confusion pouring onto the pages. She wrote until her hand cramped, until the first light of dawn crept through her windows. When she finally stopped, Katie felt lighter somehow. Still hurt, still confused, but lighter. She looked at Rachel's photo again, and for the first time in her life, she felt something other than worship for her mother. She felt pity. Rachel had been so consumed by her own pain that she'd poisoned her daughter's chance at happiness. And now Rachel was gone, leaving Katie to untangle the mess alone. Except she wasn't alone. Marcus had reached out, Linda had listened, and tomorrow she'd face Eleanor, the woman she'd wronged, the woman who might show her what real grace looked like. Katie showered and changed for her shift, dreading the conversation with her manager. But when she arrived at the diner, Linda was waiting with a cup of coffee and a sympathetic smile. "Manager called in sick," Linda said, "so you've got a reprieve. Use it wisely." The morning passed in a blur of orders and coffee refills. Katie moved through her tasks mechanically, her mind elsewhere. She kept thinking about the meeting with Marcus, about seeing Eleanor again. Around 11, a group of elderly women settled into a corner booth. Katie recognized them, regulars who came every Monday for lunch and gossip. "Did you hear about Rachel Miller?" one of them said, loud enough for Katie to hear. Katie froze, coffee pot in hand. "The woman who used to work for the Sullivans?" another replied. "What about her?" "Such a bitter soul. I ran into her once at the grocery store, must have been 15 years ago. She spent 20 minutes complaining about how Eleanor Sullivan had ruined her life." Katie's heart pounded. She moved closer, pretending to wipe down the next table. "Eleanor Sullivan couldn't ruin anyone's life," the first woman scoffed. "That woman is a saint. Do you know she paid for Rachel's prenatal care? Set up a college fund for the baby? And Rachel repaid her by stealing jewelry." "I heard Eleanor didn't press charges," a third woman added. "Said Rachel needed help, not punishment. But Rachel took the baby and left town anyway." "Pride," the first woman said, shaking her head. "Foolish pride. Eleanor treated that girl like family, and Rachel threw it all away." Katie's hands shook so badly she had to set down the coffee pot. The conversation continued, each woman adding details that matched what Rachel's letter had said. Every word was another nail in the coffin of Katie's old beliefs. Her mother hadn't been a victim. She'd been the villain of her own story, too proud to accept the help she desperately needed. And she'd taught Katie to be the same way. Linda appeared at Katie's elbow. "You okay, honey?" "They're talking about my mother." "I know. Come on, let's get you some air." Outside, Katie leaned against the diner's brick wall, trying to catch her breath. "Everything she told me was backward. Eleanor Sullivan was trying to help her, and Mom made her the enemy." Hurt people," Linda said quietly. "Your mama was hurting, and she didn't know how to heal, so she hurt everyone around her, including you." "I'm just like her." Katie's voice broke. "I did the same thing to Eleanor. I saw kindness and assumed it was fake. I saw an old woman struggling, and I mocked her for it." "But you're not like your mother in the most important way," Linda said firmly. "You're here. You're facing the truth. You're trying to make it right. Rachel never did that." Katie wiped her eyes. "What if Eleanor can't forgive me?" "Then you accept that and forgive yourself anyway." but something tells me that woman has more grace than you're giving her credit for." Katie thought about tomorrow's meeting, about facing the woman she'd wronged. The old Katie would have run, would have found a way to blame someone else, to justify her cruelty. But that Katie was dying, suffocated by the weight of Rachel's lies. And in her place, someone new was struggling to be born. Someone who could face hard truths and try to be better. "I'm meeting her tomorrow," Katie said. "Marcus and Eleanor," Linda smiled. "Good. That's real good, honey. You're braver than you think." Katie wasn't sure about that, but she knew one thing. She was tired of being angry, tired of carrying her mother's bitterness like a burden she was born to bear. Tomorrow, she'd take the first step toward putting it down. Katie arrived at Riverside Park 20 minutes early, her palms sweating despite the cool evening air. She'd changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on jeans and a simple sweater because nothing felt right for apologizing to someone you'd nearly struck. Marcus was already there, sitting on a bench near the water. He stood when he saw her, and Katie's first instinct was still to run. Everything about him screamed danger. The height, the tattoos, the way he moved like violence was always an option. But his eyes were gentle when they met hers. "You came," he said. "I almost didn't." Katie's voice shook. "I've been sitting in my car for 10 minutes trying to convince myself to get out." "That took courage." "Or stupidity. I haven't decided which yet." Marcus gestured to the bench. "Sit. We should talk before I take you to see Mom." Katie sat, keeping distance between them, her hands twisted in her lap, a nervous habit she'd had since childhood. "I read the letter again. About 6 more times. And I don't know what to believe anymore." She looked at him, tears already threatening. "My whole life, my mother told me that people like your family were the enemy, that they looked down on us, that we could never trust them." She was wrong. "Was she?" Katie's voice rose. "Because from where I'm sitting, you had everything. Money, security, a mother who loved you. We had nothing. We lived in a trailer that leaked when it rained. I wore thrift store clothes to school and got made fun of for it. So maybe my mom was right to be bitter." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "You want to know what I had when I was 25? "What?" "A prison record, a drug problem, and a motorcycle club that would have killed me if I tried to leave." He rolled up his sleeve, showing her a scar that ran from elbow to wrist. "I got this in a fight outside a bar. Nearly bled out before my mom found me and drove me to the hospital." Katie stared at the scar. "Your mom did that?" "She did a lot of things she shouldn't have had to do. Bailed me out of jail more times than I can count. Let me move back home when I had nowhere else to go. Sat through my court hearings and held my hand when I was withdrawing from pills." His voice was steady, but Katie could hear the pain underneath. "Money doesn't fix broken, Katie. It just makes it easier to hide." "My mother never told me any of this. About your family, about what you went through." "She probably didn't know. She left before I really went off the rails." Marcus looked out at the water. "But here's what she did know. My mother tried to help her. Paid for doctor visits when Katie was pregnant with you, set up a college fund, offered to write references for better jobs." "Why?" Katie's voice cracked. "Why would she do all that?" "Because that's who Eleanor is. She sees someone struggling and she helps. No strings, no conditions, just kindness." Katie's tears spilled over. "And my mother threw it all away." "Your mother was drowning in her own pain, Katie. Sometimes people push away the very thing that could save them because they don't believe they deserve saving." The words hit Katie like a physical blow. How many times had she done exactly that? pushed away friendships, rejected compliments, assumed the worst in everyone's intentions. "I need to know something," she said, wiping her face. "The college fund. What happened to it?" Marcus pulled out his phone and opened his banking app. He showed her the screen. Katie's breath caught. That's $48,000. $48,312, to be exact. Mom never touched it. Even after Rachel left, even when she probably could have used it herself, she kept it growing. Said it was Katie's, and Katie's it would stay. For almost 30 years? For almost 30 years. Marcus put his phone away. She kept hoping Rachel would come back, that you'd come back. But you never did. Katie couldn't breathe. Her mother had let her believe there was no money for college, that Katie's only option was to start working right out of high school. She'd taken out loans for community college classes, dropped out when she couldn't afford them, spent years bitter about opportunities she thought were stolen from her. And all along, there was money, sitting in an account, waiting for her. "I hate her," Katie whispered. "I hate my mother for what she did." No, you don't. You hate what she did. There's a difference. Is there? Katie's voice was raw. She lied to me about everything. My father, your family, the college fund. She made me believe the whole world was against us when the truth is she was against herself. Marcus nodded slowly. Rachel's letter mentioned your father, James Bradford. Did you ever try to find him? Katie's head snapped up. How do you know his name? I did some research after I read the letter. He's still alive, Katie. Still lives in Portland. Never remarried. Never had other kids. The world tilted. Katie gripped the bench to steady herself. What? Your father didn't abandon you. Your mother pushed him away and then told you he didn't want you. Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. He's been looking for you for years. Put ads in the paper, hired investigators, everything. No. Katie stood up, backing away. No, that's not possible. She wouldn't. She couldn't. She did. And Katie, he's willing to meet you, if you want. Katie's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the grass, her whole body shaking. Why are you telling me this? Why are you helping me? Because someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. When I was at my absolute worst, my mother never gave up on me, and she wouldn't give up on you either. She doesn't even know me. She knows enough. The day you were cruel to her at the diner, you know what she said to me afterward? Katie shook her head, unable to speak. She said you reminded her of me. Said you were angry and hurting, just like I was. She asked me to see past your anger, to the pain underneath. Marcus's voice thickened with emotion. Even with Alzheimer's stealing her memories, she remembered how to love people who don't love themselves. Katie sobbed, all the years of rage and pain and confusion pouring out of her. She cried for the mother who'd been too broken to love her properly, for the father she'd never known, for the opportunities stolen by lies, for the person she'd become because of it all. Marcus sat down beside her on the grass, not touching her, just present. It's okay, he said quietly. Let it out. How do I fix this? Katie managed between sobs. How do I fix what I've done? You start by facing it, by meeting my mother and telling her the truth. She won't forgive me. Katie, she won't even remember what you did. But that's not the point. The point is, you'll remember. You'll know you tried to make it right. Katie wiped her face with her sleeve, trying to compose herself.
When can I see her?
Now, if you're ready. She's at Willowbrook Care Center. I visit her every evening. Katie's stomach clenched with fear.
What if I say the wrong thing? What if I make her upset?
You won't. Just be yourself. The real yourself. Not the person your mother taught you to be. They drove separately to Willowbrook, Katie following Marcus's truck through streets she'd driven 1,000 times without knowing Eleanor lived nearby. The care center was nicer than Katie expected, with gardens and private rooms. Marcus led her down a hallway that smelled like lavender and antiseptic. He stopped outside a door marked with Eleanor's name. She's having a good day, he said. Alert, responsive. But that can change fast, so don't be alarmed if she gets confused. Katie nodded, her heart hammering. Marcus knocked softly and pushed open the door. Eleanor sat in a chair by the window, bathed in evening light. She looked smaller than Katie remembered, more fragile. But when she turned and saw Marcus, her whole face lit up.
There's my boy,
Eleanor said, her voice warm and clear. Hi, Mom. I brought someone to meet you. Marcus stepped aside, revealing Katie. Eleanor's eyes moved to Katie, and Katie braced herself for recognition, for anger, for judgment. But Eleanor just smiled. Hello, dear. Aren't you pretty? Come in, come in. Katie's legs felt like water as she walked into the room.
Mrs. Sullivan? I'm Katie Ross.
Eleanor's expression didn't change. No flicker of memory, no shadow of the diner incident. Just open, genuine warmth. Katie, what a lovely name. Please sit down. Marcus, be a dear and get us some tea. Marcus caught Katie's eye, nodding encouragement, and left the room. Katie sat in the chair across from Eleanor, her hands trembling.
Mrs. Sullivan, I need to tell you something.
Call me Eleanor, sweetheart. Mrs. Sullivan makes me sound old. Eleanor laughed, a sound so pure it broke Katie's heart.
Eleanor.
Katie took a shaky breath.
I need to apologize to you. I was cruel to you once, and I...
Cruel to me? Eleanor looked genuinely puzzled. I don't remember that. But then again, I don't remember much these days. She leaned forward conspiratorially. They tell me I have Alzheimer's. Isn't that something? Tears streamed down Katie's face.
I'm so sorry. For everything. For believing lies about you. For being angry at someone who only tried to help my mother.
Eleanor reached out and took Katie's hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong.
Oh, honey. Whatever happened, it's okay. You're here now, aren't you? That's what matters. But you don't understand what I did. I understand that you're in pain, Eleanor interrupted gently. I can see it in your eyes. The same pain my Marcus used to carry. She squeezed Katie's hand. And I understand that you came here to make it right. That takes courage, dear. Katie couldn't stop crying. My mother worked for you, Rachel Miller. She told me terrible things about you, and I believed them. I let her poison me against you. Eleanor's face grew thoughtful. Rachel. Yes, I remember Rachel. Such a sad girl, so angry at the world. You remember her? Some things stick, even when most things don't.
Eleanor smiled sadly. She had a baby, a little girl with beautiful eyes. Is that you? Katie nodded, unable to speak. I'm so glad you're here, Eleanor said. I always wondered what happened to Rachel's baby. I set up a fund for you, you know, for college. Did your mother tell you? No, she never told me. Eleanor's expression shifted to something like understanding.
She couldn't accept help, your mother. Thought it made her weak. I tried to tell her that accepting kindness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. But she wouldn't listen. She taught me the same thing, to never trust anyone, to never let people close. And are you still following her advice? Eleanor asked, her eyes surprisingly sharp. Katie thought about Marcus's patience, Linda's kindness, this moment right now with a woman who should hate her, but instead held her hand with genuine compassion. No, Katie whispered. I'm trying to learn something different. Good girl. Eleanor patted her hand.
Because life is too short to spend it angry and alone. I should know. I've forgotten most of my life, but I remember the important parts. And you know what those are?
What?
The moments when someone showed me kindness. The times I showed kindness to others. Everything else, the grudges, the hurts, the anger, it all fades away. But love sticks. Eleanor's eyes grew distant.
Even when I can't remember my own son's name, I remember that I love him. Isn't that remarkable?
Katie broke down completely, sobbing into her free hand while Eleanor held the other. This woman who should hate her, who had every right to judge her, was instead offering comfort and wisdom. Marcus appeared in the doorway with tea, took one look at the scene, and quietly set down the tray. "Mom's got you crying already?" he said gently. "She has that effect on people."
Marcus,
Eleanor said, not releasing Katie's hand.
This is Rachel's daughter. Isn't she lovely?
She is, Mom. We should have her over for dinner. Does she like pot roast? I make a wonderful pot roast. Marcus's eyes met Katie's, a shared understanding of Eleanor's confusion passing between them.
Maybe we can do that, Mom.
Eleanor turned back to Katie.
Now tell me about yourself, dear. What do you do?
Katie wiped her eyes.
I'm a waitress.
But I'm thinking about going back to school.
Wonderful. What do you want to study?
I don't know yet. Maybe social work? Helping people? Eleanor's smile was radiant.
That's perfect for you. You have kind eyes. Sad, but kind. The world needs more people who understand pain and want to help heal it.
They talked for another hour, Eleanor drifting between clarity and confusion, but always maintaining that essential warmth. She told stories about Marcus as a boy, about her late husband, about the garden she used to tend. Sometimes she forgot Katie's name and had to be reminded. Sometimes she thought they were somewhere else entirely. But through it all, she held Katie's hand like an anchor. When visiting hours ended, Marcus walked Katie back to her car. She felt wrung out, emotionally exhausted, but somehow lighter.
Thank you,
she said.
For this, for everything.
Thank my mom. She's the one who saw something in you worth saving.
I don't deserve her kindness.
None of us deserve it. That's what makes it grace. Marcus pulled out an envelope. This is information about the college fund. It's yours, Katie. It always has been. Katie took the envelope with shaking hands.
I don't know what to say.
Say you'll use it. Say you'll become the person you were meant to be, not the person your mother's pain tried to make you.
What about my father?
The words came out before Katie could stop them.
James Bradford, did you mean what you said? That he's been looking for me?
Marcus pulled out another piece of paper. This is his phone number. He doesn't know I'm giving it to you, but I talked to him, explained the situation. He wants to meet you, Katie. He's wanted that for 30 years. Katie stared at the number, a connection to a father she'd never known, a father her mother had stolen from her.
What do I say to him?
The truth, that you just found out about him, that you want to know him. Marcus's voice was gentle. Or don't call at all. It's your choice. But don't let Rachel's choices keep defining your life. Katie looked back at the care center, where Eleanor sat in her window, waving at them even though she probably didn't remember who they were anymore. "She's amazing," Katie said. "Your mother." "I know. I wasted so much time being angry. At her, at the world, at myself. Then stop wasting it." Marcus opened her car door. "Start living, Katie. Start healing. Start becoming someone you can be proud of." Katie drove home with the envelope and the phone number sitting on her passenger seat, feeling like she was carrying the weight of two different futures. One where she stayed angry and bitter like Rachel, and one where she chose something different. She knew which one Eleanor would want her to choose. When she got home, Katie didn't go inside immediately. She sat in her car, staring at her mother's photo through the living room window, and felt something shift inside her. "I forgive you, Mom," she whispered. "I forgive you for being too broken to love me the way I needed. I forgive you for the lies, for the stolen opportunities, for teaching me to hate instead of hope." The tears came again, but they felt different this time, cleansing instead of bitter. "But I'm not going to be you," Katie continued. "I'm going to be better. I'm going to accept the help you couldn't accept. I'm going to build the life you were too afraid to build. And I'm going to honor your memory by becoming everything you couldn't be." She picked up James Bradford's phone number, her hand steady now, and dialed before she could talk herself out of it. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a man's voice, careful and hoping. "Hello?" Katie took a breath. "Mr. Bradford? This is Katie Ross. I think you might be my father." The sound he made was half laugh, half sob. "Katie. Oh my God, Katie. I've been waiting 30 years for this call." The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long Katie thought the call had dropped. Then James Bradford spoke again, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry. I never thought this would happen. Your mother made it very clear she didn't want me in your life." Katie gripped the phone tighter. "She told me you didn't want me, that you abandoned us." "No!" The word came out fierce. "God, no! I tried everything. Lawyers, investigators, letters she returned unopened. When you were 5, I even showed up at her work and she threatened to call the police." "Why didn't you fight harder?" The question came out harsher than Katie intended. James was quiet for a moment. "Because your mother said if I kept trying, she'd disappear completely and I'd never find either of you. I believed her. So I backed off, but kept looking. Every birthday, every Christmas, I wondered where you were and if you were okay." Katie felt tears on her face again. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that." "You have every right to be angry. At her, at me, at the whole situation." James's voice steadied. "But Katie, if you're willing, I'd like to meet you. To try to be part of your life if it's not too late." "It's not too late." The words felt like jumping off a cliff. "I want that too." They agreed to meet for coffee the next morning. After Katie hung up, she sat in her car, shaking, unable to believe what she'd just done. 30 years of lies unraveling in a single phone call. Her phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. "How'd it go with Eleanor?" Katie typed back, "Better than I deserved. I called my father." The 3 dots appeared immediately, then, "That took guts. Proud of you." Katie stared at those words, "proud of you," and realized no one had ever said them to her before. Not her mother, not her teachers, not anyone. She went inside and spent the next 3 hours packing up Rachel's belongings. Every photo, every piece of furniture, every reminder of the woman who'd taught her to hate. Katie wasn't throwing them away. She'd donate them, give them to people who needed them. But she couldn't heal in a shrine to bitterness. The next morning, Katie arrived at the coffee shop 30 minutes early. She'd changed outfits 4 times, practiced what to say in the mirror, and nearly canceled twice. When a tall man with graying hair walked in at exactly 9 o'clock, she knew it was him before he even looked around. James Bradford had her eyes, or she had his. The same green with gold flecks, the same shape. He spotted her and froze, his hand clutching the door handle. They stared at each other across the coffee shop, 30 years of absence compressed into a single moment. Then James crossed the room in quick strides and stopped at her table. "Katie," he said, and the way he said her name, like it was precious, like he'd been practicing it, broke something loose in her chest. "Hi," her voice came out small. Should we hug, or?" James pulled her into his arms before she could finish. He held her tight, one hand cradling the back of her head like she was 5 years old and afraid of thunderstorms. Katie felt his shoulders shake with silent sobs. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there." Katie couldn't speak. She just held on to this stranger who was her father, feeling decades of absence trying to close in a single embrace. When they finally sat down, James couldn't stop looking at her. "You look like your mother," he said. "But you have my eyes, and my grandmother's chin." "Tell me about her, your grandmother." "She raised me after my parents died. Toughest woman I ever met, but with the biggest heart." James smiled. "She would have loved you." They talked for 3 hours, James filling in gaps Katie didn't even know existed. He told her about meeting Rachel at a community center, about their brief relationship, about how excited he'd been when Rachel got pregnant. "I wanted to marry her," James said. "Had a ring picked out and everything. But she said no. Said she didn't need me, didn't need anyone. I thought if I just kept showing up, kept proving I was serious, she'd change her mind. But she didn't." "No. The more I tried to help, the angrier she got, like my love was an insult." His hands wrapped around his coffee cup. I didn't understand it then. Took me years of therapy to realize she was fighting demons I couldn't see. Katie thought about Rachel's letter, about the bitterness that had consumed her mother. "I'm just like her, you know, angry, pushing people away, assuming the worst in everyone." "Are you?" James met her eyes. "Because the Katie I'm sitting with right now called a father she'd never met, showed up to meet him, and is trying to heal. That doesn't sound like someone who's given up." "I met someone," Katie said. "Eleanor Sullivan, the woman my mother used to work for. She has Alzheimer's and doesn't remember me being cruel to her, but she's showing me what real grace looks like." James's expression shifted. "Eleanor Sullivan. God, I haven't thought about her in years. She tried to help your mother too. Rachel hated her for it." "You knew her?" "Not well, but I met her a few times when I was trying to see you. She was kind, offered to mediate between your mother and me, said maybe if Rachel saw we both wanted what was best for you." He stopped, shaking his head. "Rachel accused her of interfering and threatened to get a restraining order against both of us." Katie felt sick. "My mother destroyed everything good in her life." "She was sick, Katie. Not Alzheimer's sick, but sick in her soul. And I'm sorry she passed that sickness on to you. James reached across the table. But you don't have to stay sick. You can choose something different. Katie took his hand, feeling the connection of blood and DNA and 30 lost years. Will you help me? I don't know how to have a father, but I want to learn. I don't know how to have a daughter either, James admitted. But we'll figure it out together. They exchanged phone numbers, made plans for dinner that weekend, and when Katie left the coffee shop, she felt like she was walking on new legs, unsteady but hopeful. Her phone rang. Marcus. Hey, she answered. I just met my father. How was it? Overwhelming. Good. Terrifying. Katie laughed, surprised by the sound. All of it at once. Listen, I'm calling because Mom's having a rough day. She's confused and upset, and for some reason she keeps asking for Rachel. Marcus's voice was strained. I know it's a lot to ask, but would you come? I think seeing you might help. Katie didn't hesitate. I'm on my way. She arrived at Willowbrook 20 minutes later to find Marcus pacing outside Eleanor's room. His face was drawn, exhausted. She's been crying for an hour, he said. Keeps saying she needs to talk to Rachel, that she has to apologize for something. I've tried everything. Katie's heart clenched. Let me try. She entered Eleanor's room to find the older woman curled in her chair, tears streaming down her face. Eleanor looked up when Katie entered, her expression lost and frightened. Where's Rachel? Eleanor asked. I need to tell her I'm sorry. I tried to help, but I made it worse. I made everything worse. Katie knelt beside Eleanor's chair. Eleanor, it's me, Katie, Rachel's daughter. Eleanor's eyes focused on her, searching. Katie. Little Katie. Not so little anymore, but yes, it's me. Where's your mother? I need to tell her. Eleanor's voice broke. I need to tell her it wasn't her fault. That she wasn't broken. That I should have tried harder. Katie felt tears on her own face. Mom's gone, Eleanor. She passed away 5 years ago. No. Eleanor gripped Katie's hands. No. I never got to tell her. I never got to say I was sorry for not understanding. She was hurting so much, and I thought love could fix it. But some pain goes too deep. She knew you tried, Katie said, even though she wasn't sure it was true. And Eleanor. She left me a letter before she died. She told me how wrong she was about you. Eleanor's tears fell faster. Did she? Did she really? Yes. She said she was sorry for pushing you away. Sorry for being too proud to accept your help. Katie was making up details now, filling in gaps with what she wished Rachel had said. She said you were the kindest person she'd ever met, and she was too broken to appreciate it. Eleanor's face crumpled with relief. Oh, thank God. I've carried that guilt for so long, wondering if I failed her. You didn't fail her. She failed herself. But Eleanor, Katie squeezed her hands. She asked me to tell you something. What? She asked you to help me, to show me what she couldn't learn. How to accept love, how to let people in, how to heal. Eleanor's tears slowed. She reached up and touched Katie's face with trembling fingers. You're here. You came back. I did, and if you'll have me, I'd like to keep coming back, to learn from you. Oh, sweetheart. Eleanor pulled Katie into a hug. I would love that. I would love that so much. Marcus found them like that 20 minutes later, Eleanor calm, and Katie reading to her from a book of poetry. He caught Katie's eye over his mother's head, his expression grateful and awed. That night became the first of many. Katie started visiting Eleanor every day after her shift at the diner, bringing books to read, helping with meals, brushing Eleanor's silver hair, and listening to stories that sometimes made sense and sometimes didn't. The visits transformed Katie. Each act of service, each moment of patience, each time she chose gentleness over frustration, it was like shedding layers of Rachel's bitterness. She found herself smiling more, relaxing into conversation with other visitors, even laughing at Eleanor's confused but earnest observations. "You're good at this," Marcus said one evening, watching Katie help Eleanor into bed. "Taking care of her."
It doesn't feel like taking care of her. It feels like...
Katie paused, searching for words.
Like she's taking care of me. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. Marcus walked her to her car. "Mom has a way of healing people without even trying. I think it's her actual superpower."
I want to do this for other people,
Katie said suddenly.
What your mom does. Seeing the good in people, helping them find their way back to themselves. I want to learn how to do that.
Social work?
Maybe, or counseling. Something where I can help families dealing with Alzheimer's, with elderly parents, with the kind of pain I caused.
Katie looked back at the care center.
I want to be like Eleanor when I grow up.
Marcus smiled. That's the best goal I've ever heard. 2 weeks later, Katie enrolled in night classes at Portland Community College. She used money from the college fund Eleanor had kept for her, and each tuition payment felt like honoring both the woman who'd saved it and the mother who'd never let her use it. James came to her first class, sitting in the back with a proud smile. Afterward, they went to dinner, and he told her about her grandmother's work as a nurse, about the family legacy of helping people.
This is in your blood, Katie, he said. Your grandmother would be so proud.
Katie thought about Rachel, about the legacy of bitterness she could have inherited instead.
I'm choosing which blood to honor, she said. And it's not the bitter blood.
The months blurred together in a haze of classes, work, and visits to Eleanor. Katie watched Marcus navigate his mother's decline with a grace that amazed her. He never lost patience, never showed frustration, never treated Eleanor like a burden, even when the burden was crushing.
How do you do it?
Katie asked one night after a particularly difficult visit, where Eleanor hadn't recognized either of them. Because she did it for me, Marcus said simply. When I was strung out and violent and pushing everyone away, she never stopped showing up. Now it's my turn. Katie started taking notes on Marcus's techniques, how he redirected Eleanor's confusion, how he created joy in small moments, how he grieved privately so Eleanor never saw his pain. She used those observations in her classes, in papers about caregiver support and Alzheimer's care. Her professors noticed. One pulled her aside after class. You write about this with real understanding, Dr. Chen said. Personal experience? Katie told her about Eleanor, about Rachel, about learning to heal by helping someone else heal. Dr. Chen listened with growing interest. Would you be willing to share your story with my advanced class? We're studying generational trauma and breaking cycles of pain. Katie's first instinct was to say no. But she thought about Eleanor's courage, about Marcus's vulnerability, about James's willingness to try again after 30 years. Yes, she said. I'll do it. The presentation was the hardest thing Katie had ever done. Standing in front of 40 graduate students, telling them about her mother's lies, about her own cruelty to Eleanor, about the transformation that came from facing truth. It stripped her bare. But when she finished, the room erupted in applause. Students came up afterward with their own stories of family pain, of learned bitterness, of finding ways to heal. You gave me hope, one woman said, tears in her eyes.
My mother is just like yours. I thought I was doomed to repeat her mistakes. You're not, Katie told her. We can choose something different.
That night, Katie visited Eleanor and told her about the presentation. Eleanor was having a clear day, her eyes sharp and focused. "I'm proud of you, sweetheart," Eleanor said. "Using your pain to help others, that's real strength." "I learned it from you." Eleanor smiled. "No, you learned it from choosing to heal. I just showed you it was possible." She took Katie's hand. "Promise me something? Anything. Promise me you'll keep choosing healing, even when it's hard, even when the old anger tries to come back." Eleanor's grip tightened. "Promise me you won't let your mother's pain have the last word." "I promise." Katie's voice broke. "Eleanor, I love you. I know I don't have the right to say that, but I do. You've been more of a mother to me in these months than—" "Shh." Eleanor touched her face. "You have every right. Love doesn't require rights. It just requires an open heart." 2 days later, Marcus called Katie at 3 in the morning. "It's Mom," he said, his voice wrecked. "The doctor says it's time. She's asking for you." Katie drove to Willowbrook in her pajamas, her heart hammering. She found Marcus in Eleanor's room, holding his mother's hand while she struggled to breathe. "Katie," Eleanor whispered when she saw her. "My sweet girl." Katie knelt beside the bed, taking Eleanor's other hand. "I'm here. Tell Marcus. Tell him I'm proud. Tell him he saved me, just like I saved him." "You can tell him yourself, Mom," Marcus said, his voice breaking. But Eleanor's eyes were already closing. "The garden," she murmured. "Plant purple flowers, so everyone remembers. Love grows even in hard soil." Her breathing slowed. Marcus and Katie sat on either side of her, holding her hands and each other's, singing Amazing Grace through their tears. Eleanor took one more gentle breath and was still. Marcus buried his face in his mother's shoulder, sobbing. Katie held his free hand, her own tears falling on Eleanor's blanket. They stayed like that for a long time, two broken people who'd been loved back to wholeness, saying goodbye to the woman who'd shown them the way. At Eleanor's funeral, Katie stood at the podium and looked out at the crowded church. Marcus had asked her to speak, and she'd agreed, even though the thought terrified her. "I only knew Eleanor Sullivan for a few months," she began, her voice shaking. "And for most of that time, she didn't really know me. Alzheimer's had taken her memory, but it couldn't take her essence. It couldn't take her ability to love without conditions, to see potential in broken people, to offer grace when judgment would have been easier." Katie told them about the diner, about her cruelty, about Eleanor's forgiveness. She didn't spare herself, didn't make excuses. The congregation listened in silence. "Eleanor taught me that it's never too late for redemption," Katie continued. "That we can choose who we become, regardless of who we've been. She saw past my anger to the hurt underneath, and she loved me anyway. Not because I deserved it, but because that's who she was." Her eyes found Marcus in the front row, tears streaming down his face. "To Eleanor's son Marcus, you honored your mother every single day. You showed me what real love looks like. Patient, selfless, never giving up." Katie's voice broke. "And Eleanor, wherever you are, thank you. Thank you for saving me when I didn't even know I needed saving."
Thank you for teaching me that love is stronger than pain, that forgiveness is possible, that we can break the cycles that try to destroy us. She returned to her seat beside James, who put his arm around her shoulders. Across the aisle, Marcus met her eyes and mouthed 2 words. Thank you. The reception afterward was full of people sharing Eleanor stories, how she'd helped them through divorce, through addiction, through loss. Each story was a testament to a woman who'd made loving, broken people her life's work. Katie stood with Marcus in the church garden, watching people mill around with coffee and memories. She would have loved this, Marcus said. All these people gathering to celebrate love instead of mourn death. She loved people celebrating anything, Katie agreed. Remember how excited she got about my B+ on that psychology exam? Marcus laughed, the sound thick with grief. She framed it, put it on her wall next to my high school diploma. They stood in comfortable silence, 2 people bound by shared loss and shared salvation. What are you going to do now? Katie asked. Keep living the way she taught me. Keep helping people who need it. Keep her garden growing. Marcus looked at her. What about you? Katie thought about her classes, about the college fund being put to use, about James waiting to drive her home, about the path Eleanor had set her on. I'm going to keep my promise to her, Katie said. I'm going to keep choosing healing, and I'm going to help other people do the same.
6 months after Eleanor's funeral, Katie stood in the lobby of Willowbrook Care Center wearing a name badge that read, Katie Ross, Family Support Coordinator. Her first day on the job felt like coming home and stepping into the unknown all at once. Ready? Asked Sarah Martinez, the director who'd hired her. Your first family is waiting in conference room 2. Katie nodded, clutching the folder containing information about the Chen family. Mrs. Chen had just been diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's, and her daughter Amy was struggling to cope. When Katie entered the room, she recognized the look on Amy's face immediately. The same desperate fear Katie had seen in Marcus's eyes during Eleanor's worst days. The same helpless rage Katie had carried before Eleanor taught her to transform it.
Thank you for meeting with me, Amy said, her voice tight with barely controlled emotion. I don't know what I'm doing.
Mom keeps asking the same questions, getting angry when I correct her, and I just... Her voice broke.
I keep losing my patience and then hating myself for it.
Katie sat down across from her.
Tell me about your mom, not the disease. Her.
Amy looked surprised.
What do you mean? Tell me who she was before Alzheimer's. What made her laugh? What did she love?
Amy's expression softened.
She loved gardening. Used to spend hours tending her roses. And she made the best dumplings, spent all day making them from scratch for Sunday dinners. Does she still remember those things? Sometimes. Yesterday she was humming while looking at a gardening magazine. But then she asked me who I was, and
Amy wiped her eyes.
I can't do this. I'm not strong enough.
You are, Katie said firmly,
and I'm going to help you learn how. But first, I need to tell you something about myself.
She told Amy about Eleanor, about her own cruelty and Eleanor's grace, about learning that Alzheimer's takes memories but can't touch the essence of who someone is. Amy listened with growing hope.
So there's a way to do this without falling apart?
Amy asked. There's a way to fall apart and put yourself back together every day, Katie corrected. That's what caregiving really is, breaking and healing, over and over, choosing love every single time, even when it's hard. They spent 2 hours together, Katie sharing techniques Marcus had taught her, resources she'd learned in school, and the most important lesson Eleanor had given her, that patience isn't about never getting frustrated.
It's about choosing kindness anyway. When Amy left, she hugged Katie hard. Thank you. I feel like I can breathe again. Katie watched her go, feeling Eleanor's presence like a warm hand on her shoulder. Her phone buzzed. Marcus. How was day 1? Katie typed back. I helped someone. Really helped them. Eleanor would be proud.
Marcus's response came immediately. She already is. So am I. That evening, Katie met James for their weekly dinner. They'd settled into a rhythm over the past months. Wednesday dinners, Sunday morning coffee, phone calls when Katie needed advice or James wanted to share a memory of his grandmother. You're glowing, James observed when Katie sat down. First day went well?
Better than well. I felt like I was exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Katie couldn't stop smiling. Is this how you felt when you started your business? James had told her about his company, a construction firm that specialized in making homes accessible for elderly and disabled people. Another piece of family legacy Katie was just discovering. Exactly like that, James said. Like all the pieces finally clicked into place. He pulled out an envelope. Speaking of which, I have something for you. Katie opened it to find a check for $50,000.
Dad, no. I can't accept this.
It's not charity. It's 30 years of birthday and Christmas presents I never got to give you. James's voice was firm. Use it to finish your degree without working yourself to death. Use it to build the life Rachel tried to steal from you. Katie's eyes filled. You don't have to make up for lost time with money. I'm not making up for anything. I'm investing in my daughter's future. James reached across the table. Let me do this, Katie. Let me be your father. The word father still felt new and fragile, but Katie was learning to trust it. Thank you, she whispered, for not giving up on finding me. Thank you for calling when you did. James squeezed her hand. You saved my life too, you know. I'd spent 30 years wondering, hoping, hurting. Now I get to watch you become the person you were always meant to be. 2 weeks later, Katie was mediating a family meeting at Willowbrook when she heard raised voices from the hallway. She excused herself and found a young woman, maybe 25, screaming at an elderly man in a wheelchair.
I don't care if you can't remember, Dad. You promised you'd sign the papers. The house needs to be sold and you keep forgetting.
The old man cowered, confusion and fear on his face. Katie's blood went cold. She was watching herself from 8 months ago, watching the same cruelty she'd shown Eleanor.
Excuse me, Katie said, stepping between them. I'm Katie Ross, family coordinator. Can I help?
The young woman, her name tag said Melissa, whirled on her.
Stay out of this. This is between me and my father. Actually, anything that happens in this facility is my business. Katie kept her voice calm. Your father is clearly distressed. Let's step into my office and talk. I don't have time for this. I have a job, a life. I can't keep coming here every day to deal with his memory problems. Katie saw the old man's face crumple, and something inside her snapped.
Not with anger, but with clarity. My office. Now. Her tone left no room for argument. Once inside, Melissa dropped into a chair, arms crossed defensively. Look, I know I lost my temper, but you don't understand how hard this is. Actually, I understand exactly how hard it is, Katie sat across from her. I understand the frustration, the exhaustion, the anger at watching someone you love disappear. I understand wanting to scream at them for forgetting, for making your life difficult, for not being who they used to be. Melissa's expression shifted, some of the defensiveness fading. I also understand, Katie continued, that cruelty doesn't make it easier. It makes it worse. For them and for you.
I wasn't being cruel. I was just trying to get him to focus. You were yelling at a man with dementia for having dementia. That's like yelling at someone with a broken leg for not running. Katie leaned forward. Your father can't help what's happening to him, but you can help how he responds to it. Melissa's face crumpled. I don't know how to do this. Mom handled everything before she died, and now it's just me, and I'm drowning. Katie recognized that desperation. She'd felt it herself, watching her mother's bitterness consume everything, feeling helpless to stop it. Let me help you, Katie said. That's what I'm here for. Over the next hour, Katie walked Melissa through resources, coping strategies, and support groups. She shared her own story, not all of it, but enough to show Melissa she wasn't alone in struggling. You were cruel to someone with Alzheimer's and she forgave you? Melissa asked, disbelief in her voice. She didn't just forgive me. She loved me through it. Showed me how to be better. Katie's throat tightened with emotion. And now I'm trying to pay that forward by helping people like you avoid the mistakes I made. Melissa wiped her eyes. Can I start over with my dad? Is it too late? It's never too late to choose kindness. Katie stood. Come on, let's go apologize to him together. They found Melissa's father in the common room, still looking shaken. When Melissa knelt beside his wheelchair and took his hand, tears streaming down her face, Katie had to look away. I'm sorry, Daddy, Melissa said. I'm so sorry for yelling. You didn't deserve that. The old man's confusion cleared slightly. He touched Melissa's face with a trembling hand. It's okay, sweetheart. I know this is hard for you. Even in his diminished state, he was offering forgiveness, just like Eleanor had. Katie left them alone and went to her office, where she found Marcus waiting in the hallway. I heard you handled a difficult situation, he said. Sarah told me you turned around a family crisis in under an hour. I just saw myself in that woman. The person I was before your mom taught me better. Katie unlocked her office. Come in, I need to show you something. She pulled out a folder containing her thesis proposal for her master's program. Breaking Generational Cycles: How Alzheimer's Caregiving Can Transform Family Trauma. Marcus read the first page, his eyes widening. Katie, this is about us. About Mom. With your permission, I want to tell our story. How your mother's grace saved 2 broken people. How caregiving can heal the caregiver as much as the patient. Katie's hands trembled. I want to honor Eleanor's legacy by helping other families find what we found. Marcus's eyes filled. She would love this. She'd be so proud of you. I couldn't have done any of it without her. Without you. Katie's voice broke. You showed me what real strength looks like, Marcus. You never gave up on your mom, never gave up on me. You're the hero of this story. No, Marcus said firmly. Mom was the hero. We're just the people she saved. They sat in silence for a moment, 2 souls bound by grief and gratitude. I'm starting something, Marcus said suddenly. A foundation in Mom's name. To help families afford Alzheimer's care, fund research, provide support groups. That's perfect. Katie's mind was already racing. I could run the family support program, connect caregivers with resources, facilitate groups, provide counseling. Would you? Hope lit Marcus's face. I was going to ask, but I didn't want to pressure you. Are you kidding? I'd be honored. Katie grabbed his hand. We could help so many people, Marcus. Turn our pain into purpose, just like Eleanor would want. They spent the next 2 hours planning, their grief transforming into vision.
The Eleanor Sullivan Foundation would provide comprehensive support for Alzheimer's families, with special focus on breaking cycles of family trauma and teaching caregivers to love through the hardest moments. When Marcus left, Katie sat at her desk and pulled out a journal she'd been keeping, letters to Eleanor that she'd never send, documenting her journey from bitterness to healing. "Dear Eleanor," she wrote, "today I stopped someone from making my mistakes. I saw a woman yelling at her father and I recognized myself, the angry, hurting person I was before you showed me another way. I helped her choose kindness instead of cruelty. I think you'd be proud of that." Her phone rang, an unknown number. "Is this Katie Ross?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, who's this?" "My name is Amanda. I was in your class at Portland Community College when you gave that presentation about your mother and Eleanor Sullivan." The woman's voice shook. "I've been thinking about it for months, about what you said about breaking cycles of pain. I need help. I'm turning into my mother, and I don't know how to stop." Katie grabbed her appointment book. "Can you come in tomorrow? I'd like to help you." They set a time, and when Katie hung up, she felt Eleanor's presence again, the ripple effect of one woman's grace, spreading outward through time and space, touching lives Eleanor would never know about. That weekend, Katie and James visited Eleanor's grave together. Marcus had planted purple flowers everywhere, turning the plot into a small garden that attracted butterflies and hummingbirds. "I never met her," James said, placing his own flowers beside Marcus's. "But she gave me my daughter back. That's a debt I can never repay." Katie knelt beside the headstone, running her fingers over Eleanor's name. "She'd say there's no debt, that love doesn't work like that." "She sounds like she was an extraordinary woman." "She was ordinary," Katie corrected. "That's what made her extraordinary. She was just a regular person who chose kindness over judgment, love over fear, grace over grudges. Anyone could do what she did. Most people just don't." James helped her stand. "You're doing it. Every day at Willowbrook, every family you help, every cycle you break, you're being Eleanor for someone else." They walked back to the parking lot in comfortable silence. Katie's phone buzzed with a text from Amy Chen. "Mom smiled today when I brought her roses. Thank you for teaching me to focus on what remains instead of what's lost." Katie showed James the message. "This is why I do it. These moments when families find their way back to each other." "Your mother would be proud too, you know," James said quietly. "Despite everything, despite the lies and the pain, if she could see who you've become, I think she'd be proud." Katie considered that. For months, she'd carried only anger toward Rachel. But lately, something had shifted. She was beginning to feel something more complex. Pity, understanding, maybe even a fragile forgiveness. "I think Mom was sick in a way nobody understood," Katie said. "Mental illness, trauma, something that made her incapable of accepting love. If she'd gotten help, if she'd had someone like Eleanor, maybe things would have been different." "But they weren't," James said gently. "And you can't fix the past. You can only build a better future." "That's what I'm trying to do." Katie looked back at Eleanor's grave. "For Mom, for me, for everyone else still stuck in cycles of pain." 3 months later, Katie stood in front of a room full of Alzheimer's caregivers for the first meeting of the Eleanor Sullivan Foundation support group. 30 people had shown up, each carrying their own burden of grief and exhaustion. "My name is Katie Ross," she began. "And 8 months ago, I was cruel to a woman with Alzheimer's. I mocked her confusion, dismissed her struggles, and nearly struck her in public. The room went silent. Katie had their full attention. That woman's name was Eleanor Sullivan, and instead of hating me for my cruelty, she loved me through it. She showed me that Alzheimer's takes memories, but can't touch the soul. That patience is a choice we make every single day. That caregiving can break us and remake us into better people. She told them her story, all of it. Rachel's lies, her own bitterness, Marcus's example, Eleanor's grace. She didn't spare herself, didn't make excuses. She showed them her scars so they'd know healing was possible. You're going to have bad days, Katie continued. Days when you lose your patience, say things you regret, wish you could run away from this responsibility. That's normal. That's human. But here's what Eleanor taught me. Those bad moments don't define you. What defines you is what you do next. Do you stay in the anger, or do you choose to come back to love? Hands shot up. Questions poured out. Katie spent 2 hours answering, sharing, listening to their stories, and offering what wisdom she'd gained from her own journey. After the meeting, a middle-aged man approached her. My wife was diagnosed 6 months ago. I've been so angry. At her, at God, at the whole situation. But listening to you, I realized I'm not angry at her. I'm grieving. I'm losing her slowly, and I don't know how to say goodbye. Katie's eyes filled. You don't have to say goodbye yet. She's still here. Different, but here. Focus on who she is now, not who she was. How do I do that? Find the moments of connection. The smiles, the clarity, the times when you see the woman you love shining through the disease. Katie thought of Eleanor, humming hymns and patting her hand. Those moments are precious. Hold on to them. The man's face crumpled, and Katie pulled him into a hug. This stranger whose pain she understood completely. Marcus found her afterward, pride written all over his face. Mom would have loved this. People coming together, supporting each other, choosing love. 30 people showed up, Marcus. 30 families who need help. And they found it. Because of you. Marcus handed her an envelope. The foundation board met yesterday. We want you to be our full-time director of family services. Good salary, benefits, the whole thing. You'd run the support groups, train caregivers, develop programs. Katie stared at the offer letter, her hands shaking. It was more money than she'd ever imagined making, doing work she'd discovered she was born to do. What about school? You'd finish your master's part-time. The foundation would pay for it. Marcus smiled. Katie, you're already doing the work. Let us pay you properly for it. She thought about the diner, about slinging coffee and taking abuse from impatient customers, about how far she'd come from that angry woman who'd nearly struck an elderly lady. I accept, Katie said. On one condition. We name the caregiver training program after your mom. The Eleanor Sullivan Grace Initiative. Marcus pulled her into a fierce hug. Perfect. She'd love that. That night, Katie sat in her apartment. She'd moved out of Rachel's old place into somewhere bright and new, and pulled out her journal. Dear Eleanor, she wrote, I accepted a job today that wouldn't exist without you. I'm going to spend my life helping families find what you gave me. Grace in the hardest moments, love that survives loss, hope that healing is possible. You saved me from becoming my mother. Now, I'm saving others from becoming theirs. Thank you for seeing past my anger to the hurt underneath. Thank you for never giving up on me.
Thank you for showing me that redemption is always possible if we're brave enough to accept it. She paused, then added, I'm not angry anymore, Eleanor. At you, at Mom, at myself, at the world. I'm just grateful. Grateful for every moment I got with you, even the hard ones. Grateful for Marcus, for Dad, for this chance to turn pain into purpose.
You taught me that love is stronger than any wound, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving you right. 6 months later, Katie stood at a podium in front of 300 people at the Alzheimer's Association's annual conference. She'd been asked to give the keynote speech about innovative approaches to family support. James sat in the front row beside Marcus, both of them beaming with pride. In the audience, Katie spotted Amy Chen, Melissa and her father, and dozens of families she'd worked with through the foundation. When I met Eleanor Sullivan, Katie began, I was the last person anyone would trust to care for Alzheimer's patients. I was bitter, angry, and cruel, the product of my mother's untreated pain and unhealed wounds. I saw Eleanor's confusion and I mocked it. I saw her vulnerability and I exploited it. I saw an elderly woman struggling and I made it worse. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Taking had learned that making people uncomfortable was sometimes necessary for real change. Eleanor should have hated me, should have pressed charges, gotten me fired, told her son to keep me away forever. Instead, she loved me, even as Alzheimer's stole her memories, even as she forgot my name and my face. She never forgot how to offer grace to someone who didn't deserve it. Katie's voice strengthened. That grace changed everything. It broke the cycle of bitterness my mother had passed down to me. It showed me that I could choose who to become, regardless of who I'd been. It taught me that the best response to pain isn't more pain. It's love. She told them about the foundation, about the hundreds of families they had helped in just 6 months, about caregivers learning to see past the disease to the person, about adult children reconciling with parents they'd been ready to abandon, about the ripple effect of choosing kindness. Eleanor Sullivan died 9 months ago, Katie concluded, her voice thick with emotion. But her legacy lives on in every family we help, every caregiver we train, every cycle of pain we help break. She proved that one person's grace can change the world, not through grand gestures, but through small acts of love repeated day after day after day. Katie looked at Marcus, at James, at all the faces in the crowd. If you take one thing from my story, let it be this. It's never too late to choose healing. It's never too late to break the cycles that bind you. It's never too late to become the person you were meant to be. Eleanor taught me that, and now I'm teaching it to everyone who listen. Because that's what grace does. It multiplies, it spreads, it transforms everyone it touches. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Afterward, dozens of people approached Katie with their own stories of family pain and the desperate hope for healing. She listened to each one, offered contact information for the foundation, and silently thanked Eleanor for starting the chain reaction that led to this moment. That evening, Katie, Marcus, and James stood in Eleanor's garden behind her old house. Marcus had kept it exactly as she'd maintained it, purple flowers blooming in wild profusion. "She'd be amazed by what you've built," James said to both of them. "A foundation helping thousands of people, all because one woman chose kindness." "That's Eleanor's real legacy," Marcus said quietly. "Not the foundation, not the programs. It's the lives she changed by refusing to give up on broken people." Katie knelt and touched one of the purple flowers.
I was so broken, Marcus. So angry and lost and convinced the whole world was against me. And she just loved me anyway.
That's what she did best. Marcus knelt beside Katie. Loved people anyway. Despite their flaws, their mistakes, their worst moments. She loved them anyway.
I want to be like that, Katie said. I want to love people the way she loved us.
You already do, James told her. Every family you help, every caregiver you support, every cycle you break. That's Eleanor's love working through you. They stood there as the sun set, 3 people bound together by one woman's transformative grace. Katie thought about Rachel, about the mother who'd passed down bitterness instead of love, about Eleanor, who'd interrupted that inheritance and given Katie something better to pass on. She thought about the hundreds of families the foundation would help, about the cycles of pain they'd break together, about the ripple effect of choosing grace over grudges. And she made a promise to Eleanor's memory, to Marcus's faith, to James's hope, and to herself. She would spend the rest of her life multiplying the love she'd received, helping others discover that redemption wasn't just possible. It was waiting for anyone brave enough to accept it. Because that was Eleanor's final gift. Proof that one person's grace could transform not just one life, but hundreds, thousands, an endless chain of healing spreading outward through time. Katie had been saved by love, and now she would spend her life saving others the same way, choosing kindness over cruelty, hope over bitterness, and grace over judgment, every single day, for as long as she had breath to do it. That was Eleanor's legacy, and Katie would make damn sure it never died.